It's just streaming now. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today. Just give us 2 seconds, and we are just trying to stream on all our platforms. And as you can see, we've got our lovely Barb here. And yes, so you can share this. Let's share this. And yeah, so we are sharing this. More options. So we're just sharing this before we start recording. And share now. Oh yeah, I'm sharing to Twitter as well, and I forgot that. And Instagram and Twitter and everywhere. And you guys can help us share this, because we actually want to share ideas that change lives. As always, we have conversations that change lives here, and that's what we want to do. So right. Are we ready? In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, we are going to hit record and start. Hello again, everyone, and welcome to Tuesday Tips for Parenting Teens here at Raising Remarkable Teenagers. And as you guys know, we scour around the world looking for amazing guests. Why? Because we want to deliver to you information that changes the way you bring up your young people. And as you know, we help parents of teenagers raise mentally healthy and highly effective teenagers without losing your mind. And today, guess who we've got? We've got Barb, and Barb helps. Barb Harvey, welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
I'm just gonna quickly tell you a little bit about Barb, who's one of my favorite persons, because Barb helps parent coaches, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely teach, like teach parent coaches how to be more effective by bringing in, listen to this, their authenticity. You guys know how big we are here on being authentic self. So I don't want to waste so much of your time doing the introduction. You guys know I get excited, but I don't want to do that today, because I want to respect Barb, and we want to really hear from her. Welcome, Barb Harvey.
Thank you, Angie. You are also one of my favorite people. So thank you. I am excited to be here and talk with you and your audience. So I have been a coach for 29 years. I started parent coaching in 1995. And so I have recently shifted into really working to help parent coaches to help parents be more effective in whatever their sphere is. And for Angie's teens, and I work with many different coaches, so I'm excited to be here. I have what is called an authenticity structure, and I'm teaching coaches how to use that structure. Basically, I define authenticity as having what you believe, think, feel, say, and do all line up. Means you don't believe something, you don't say it, and if you do say something, you actually believe it. So that's me, and that's what I'm bringing to you guys today, what I'm looking to help you with.
Goodness, Barb, I so love that. And you know the reason I love that? Because one of the main questions that our audience love to know about ourselves and the guests that we bring on here is being intentional, right? We are a community of intentional parents. And what you talked about, authenticity, for me, it blends so much with intention, being intentional. Actually taking that minute or that moment to think about, what am I thinking? What am I doing? Why am I doing this? Is this of benefit? So tell us, in terms of parents being intentional, how do you think, I mean, most of us know we really bang on about being intentional. So tell us, how do you think being intentional helps us be more effective as parents?
Okay, so let me start first by sharing what I believe the definition of adulthood is, because I think this is something, because this is where I think being an adult and being a parent becomes the most intentional. Mm-hmm. So this is my official definition of adulthood. There's probably a lot of them out there, but this is mine. Okay. An adult is defined as a person over the age of 18 who is capable and responsible. This person has the ability to participate fully in the world by engaging in self-care, mm-hmm. spiritual, family, mm-hmm. work, and financial aspects of life with respect, intention, and well thought through actions.
Wow.
So if you're going to, and I consider the teenage years the number one mentoring period for helping your kids become an adult. And so you have to be intentional with that. You have to be thinking about all of the things, this is my favorite thing. Technically, at the age of 18, your child is legally able to buy a house. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Do they have everything? Have you given them everything that they need to be capable, responsible, and intentional about doing that? And if you haven't, why not?
Whoa, 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 challenging us that. If we haven't, why not?
Yeah, because the teen years are when we're supposed to be mentoring our kids. So we should be teaching them about, self-care. Self-care isn't just about taking a bath and doing our hair, brushing our teeth. It's being able to pay our bills. It's being able to go shopping at the grocery store and come home and put it away properly and cook it properly. It's about ensuring that we can get up out of bed on time and get to work and then do a really good job while we're there. It's about having time and taking the time to take care of our families and to be, married or not, you have a mother, you have siblings, you have you have a dog or a puppy at home, you've got life, and you've got to be capable and responsible in your life. In order to do that, you have to be intentional.
Wow. And so what I'm hearing you say, Barb, and correct me if I'm wrong, because sometimes I'm wrong, my interpretation may be wrong. I'm hearing you say that our job as parents is during this time, which we call the teenage years or the adolescent years, which technically start from around the age of 8, right? In neuroscience, we know that the puberty or the adolescent years start from about 8 years old. So from that time, we are beginning to see our young people as, how would I like to see you at 18? We're no longer seeing them as little young children. You're thinking of them as a person. If you're looking at them from the end, you're seeing the end from where they are. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, exactly. Because one of the things I love to say is parents are not raising children. Parents are raising adults. And you have to think of it that way, because that 8-year-old, when they're 18 and they're ready to leave your home, they need to be able to think, act, and be an adult according to the definition I just gave. That's a lot of responsibility. That's, they're taking care of themselves, their family, their finances. That's a lot to learn in 10 years. And, from 8 to 18, that's a lot to learn. And it started, I remember at 8, my mother had me, that's when I first learned how to fry an egg, right? That's when I first learned how to start sorting clothes. Okay, those are self-care activities that I needed to learn, and I was capable of learning at 8. And so, does it change? Yes. So, but when they're 13, when they're 15, when they're 17, or have we taught them life skills along the way? I call it mentoring. Have we mentored them in being able to do some of these things? One of the things I think sometimes parents don't do as well is mentoring teens and giving teens the time to make their own decisions.
Wow.
To sit down with them and talk to them about, let's look at your options. What are your 5 options in this situation? And then, okay, so these are your 5 options. We've talked them through. You make the decision.
Wow, Bob, what you said was, I like what you said about giving them those options and actually preparing them, because there's one of the things I say, and most of you guys who are avid listeners and who've been with us for a while, we talk about, and I mean, I know some of you came back to me were like, what? I say that never, ever do for your kid that which they are capable of doing for themselves, because as you do that, you rob them of their opportunity to be an independent young person. You are literally disabling them instead of empowering and enabling them.
Right, and when you do that for them, you might think, I'm helping them, I'm supporting them, I'm giving them, but what you're really doing is telling them that you don't think they're capable of doing that. And you are the voice in the back of their head when they're 22 years old and they come up against something new. And if your voice has been, I'll do it for you because, which is a subconscious way of telling them, I don't think you can do it for yourself. That's the voice that's going to be in their head when they're 22. You don't want that voice in your head. You want the voice in their head that you think, you can do this, you can figure this out. If you need some support, if you need some counsel, I'll be glad to help you and counsel you. But you got this. And kids need that voice in their heads. And the only way they get it is from hearing you say it over and over and over again. I like to tell people, children need to hear things 500 times before they get it.
Wow. And I think as we speak about this, I can see the awareness and the intentionality in this whole thing. You're thinking in terms of, this is the voice that I want in my young person's brain, in their mind when they are 22. What is my voice that I want them to hear when I'm not with them? What do I want them to hear? That is so amazing, Barb. I've never thought of it like that. We talk here a lot about the power of words and being very intentional with words, because we know in science and also in the scriptures, it tells us be very careful with the power, because of your tongue, our tongues, our words are very, very powerful. But we also know in neuroscience, we also know that words actually carry a momentum, they carry an energy, and that can actually constrict and deplete the person, or they can actually help you grow. In fact, words are so powerful such that they can even kill plants. You know, various experiments have been done with plants. You know, you feed plants with good words, encouraging, positive words, and they thrive.
Okay.
Go on.
I just want to say, one of the ways that I learned how powerful sound is through a scientific principle. So, you know, the atom bomb is when they split an atom.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when atoms are split, there are tiny molecules that are that can no longer be split. Mm-hmm. So they're the form that can no longer be split. When they went back to look at, why can't we split this? What is holding this molecule together? It turned out it was a sound wave.
Mm-hmm.
And if you consider that all of creation was created by the voice of God saying, let there be, mm-hmm. Our reality is literally held together by the word of God.
Absolutely. The waves. So, and every word has a wave, has an energy in it. In physics, we can actually literally measure what is it a dampening word or is it a life-giving word? So it's very, very important for us to be intentional about what we say and even how we say. I think it's also Maya Angelou that said that people do remember. They may not even remember the exact words, but they remember how you made them feel, because words have, like I said, an energy, a feeling that comes with them. And that's the feeling that we remember, because it is stored in the cells of our bodies, in the memory of our bodies. So I'm excited about having this chat with you. So I want to ask you something, Barb. You know, here we are all about bursting a lot of unfounded beliefs, right? And some of the beliefs that we burst are things like, oh, you've got to be cruel to be kind, you know, things like, like I saw you roll your eyes, right? And it's some of those things, we burst them here. And unfortunately, most of us were brought up like that. And you think by being so cruel, or by being so heavy-handed, that's how you grow your young person. And unfortunately, we repeat those cycles and the beliefs, and we trample on our young people. So what kind of beliefs do you know that are actually not helpful for us? Would you share some with us, please?
Sure. I remember one time I was in a room full of parents, and I was talking about teen suicide, and I was talking about bullying. And one of the things that I said is that if we as parents will be respectful and loving and kind to our children, they won't leave our house and let somebody else treat them in a way that is not that way.
Wow.
How we speak to our children, how we interact with our children, the words we use with our children, the tone we use with our children, teach them how to expect the world to treat them. If we treat them with loving kindness and respect, then they won't accept anger, recrimination, and disrespect.
Wow.
So, so if we respect them, they will expect respect everywhere they go. And it's one thing to be obedient to an adult, it's another thing to be disrespected by an adult. And children can tell the difference. And so there are times when it's okay for a child to, speak up to an adult in a respectful way and say, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I understand that you're upset. I understand that, but my mother doesn't talk to me that way, and I wouldn't don't talk to me that way either.
Don't worry, I'm just connecting my battery. My battery saying sorry.
Oh no.
Don't worry. It's just one of these things. Don't worry.
Oh no.
It's telling me my battery is going low, but it's okay. We're doing life,
But, I think it's, children can be respectful and say, listen, I understand you're upset with me, but my mother doesn't speak to me with disrespect, and I appreciate that you need to talk to me and you need to say something to me. I don't want you to talk to me in a disrespectful way because that's not okay.
Wow. Do you know, Barb, I love what you have said, because we as the family, we as parents, we almost unknowingly teach our young people, our teenagers, how to be treated. Like you said, if they can measure, if they can tell this is how it is to be treated well, then they know when they're not being treated well, and they can stand up for themselves and say, that's not me. And when people say nasty things about them, they're thinking, that's not me. And when people put them down, they're thinking, that's not me. Yeah.
Exactly. And I like to say it this way. The way bank tellers learn about counterfeit money is that they are constantly touching and interacting with real money, so that when a counterfeit comes along, they can tell it immediately because they know the real so well. So if my parent is treating me with respect and kindness and being good to me and helping me with that, I automatically know when somebody's not doing that, because I'm so familiar with what it is to be treated with respect.
Wow. Do you know what? I think both of us were in the spirit, because I was about to give that exact same analogy, right? I was about to give that same exact analogy about, if you guys, this is serious stuff. And Barb, you talked about something that's very sensitive, but at the same time, so important, because it's happening around us. And what I usually say, none of us, I've worked in this field for many years as an adolescent psychologist. I know that none of us is invincible. Not me, not you, not whoever. You guys know I have told you stories about me, myself, and my family, and my daughter. I have told you stories about friends of mine whose kids have got into prison, right? Mental health problems, awful stuff. So when we are talking here, please don't think this cannot happen to me. Don't think this cannot happen to you, because I can tell you this can happen to anyone. And by the way, this is not to frighten you. This is not to frighten you, but with the right information and the right action and the conversation we are having here today, we can save our young people from going out there being treated like garbage, because we are treating them like garbage, and we have taught them that being treated like garbage is okay. Yet inside of themselves, all of us, I always say, inside of ourselves, there is the seed of God. There is the seed of greatness. And when it's being trampled on, that's why when someone says something nasty about you, why do you think you feel bad? You feel bad because you know that's not right. That's. So our young people, how we treat them at home is going to, and they're going to expect that kind of treatment wherever they go. So why don't we model it at home? Why don't we model kindness? Why don't we model calmness? Why don't we model love? And what I like to say is, unfortunately, again, like now we're talking about beliefs. Some of the beliefs that some parents have is, oh, I don't want to be your friend. I'm your parent. I'm your parent. I'm not your friend. And it's okay for us to throw that out. But one of the things I say is, and I like to talk about God as my father, and God as, some of you guys out here are Christians or from the Christian background. But even if you're from the science background, we'll come to that. But let's address this first. God calls you as his child, your friend. He calls you your father. He calls you your co-creator. He calls you, your person. And if we are going to emulate greatness, why is it that we cannot treat our kids the way God treats us?
I love that, Angie. And what I like to say is, you do want to keep a level of respect between you and your child. I mean, that's beautiful. But what about, instead of treating your child as somebody that needs you to, I don't like the word lording, but what if you treated your child as their mentor, you and their mentor, instead of their director, right?
Mm-hmm.
Their mentor instead of their director, right? So mentoring takes 5 steps. You teach, then you coach, then you counsel, listen, and you negotiate. Okay. So first of all, let's talk about negotiate, because that's the word that everybody jumps on when I say it. You don't negotiate everything. There are some things that are non-negotiable. That's just that's the way life is, right?
Yeah.
The things that are negotiable, you can let your child, ask a few questions and challenge you a little bit, because that's the way life works. Sometimes you need to be willing to let your child say what they have to say, and you might just change your mind. So decide what are some things that you're willing to change your mind about, and be a little negotiable in that area. But then remember those things that I talked about in the definition of adulthood. They need to know self-care. They need to be able to take care of family. They need to be able to work. And they're going to learn all of those things from you. So if you were intentional about teaching those things and working with them on learning those things, once you've taught them, then you move into the coach aspect. And now it's their turn to start doing it. It is your turn to step with them and say, okay, how can I help you here? Or, you know what, you're doing that really well, but maybe shift this a little bit. So now you're not teaching them, you're coaching them, right? And then after a while, you're letting them do it on their own. And so now they come to you for counsel, because maybe they're coming up against something they don't know how to handle, right? But because you've taught them and you've coached them, then now you can move into the counselor position and you're just helping them. And part of that counseling position is listening. And and as you listen, there are some things that you should do. Number one, ask an initial question. Are you asking me to listen because you just need to be heard? Or are you asking me to listen because you want me to help you come up with a solution?
Wow.
Different kinds of listening. So if they just want to be heard, you don't have to, you can just listen. You don't have to give them a response. You know, you can have two phrases that work for you. My two phrases are, I'm sorry that happened to you. I'm glad you felt comfortable coming to talk to me about it. Can I give you a hug? Okay, that's one response. The other response is, that really sucks. And you know, I mean, that's just that's the way it is. So those are the 5 steps of mentoring. So maybe you're not your child, quote unquote, friend, but maybe you are their mentor.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I love you talked about these five steps. Is it steps or facets of being a mentor? One of the things we talk about here, actually, we call them the 3 M's of influence, and that's being a model, a mentor, and a motivator, right? I love what you said about being a mentor. And you said, I was writing, as you can see, I'm an avid writer, guys. If I'm not participating with you on the chat or on Facebook, on Twitter, please just know I'm learning as quickly as I can, just like you. So Bob talked about being a mentor, and the role of a mentor is to teach. Is it to coach?
Yep.
To counsel. And there's one more, I think I missed it because I went straight to negotiate.
Yeah,
so
there's
which
5.
one is it?
So
yes, there's 5 of them.
Teaching, coaching,
yeah.
Counseling,
listening,
and negotiating.
And then negotiating. Brilliant. So you guys, please write this down. As a mentor, think of yourself as a mentor, and then your role is to teach, to coach, to counsel, to listen, and to negotiate. Wow. You've made it so clear, Barb, there. I mean, I have not, in my teaching, I have not been able to put them that clear in myself. So that is so good, right? So another thing I want to ask you, right? In your, I just want to ask you about, have you got any personal experiences, for example, that led you to doing the work that you do? Because it doesn't have to be. Maybe it was just something that was put there in you by God, or how did you come to having this passion, to working with parents, to working with teenagers, and now working with parent coaches? How was that journey? I mean, I know most people have a journey or a story back of why they do what they do.
My story started out when I was, I had graduated from college. I was getting ready to go and get my master's degree. And I was fortunate enough to meet Dr. Miles Monroe.
Whoa.
And he was, he had been good friends with my pastor, and he had just published his first book about purpose. And so I went to him and I told him that I was going to his alma mater. I was going to Oral Roberts University to get my master's degree in early childhood. And I asked him, as you know, I'm getting ready to go into school. So what is the one piece of advice you could give me? And he said, find out the reason that God sent you to the planet and never quit.
Whoa. Say that again.
Find out the reason that God sent you to the planet and never quit.
Come on, guys. Well, that is so sweet.
And so I asked him,
the reason why God sent you to the planet and never quit.
That's right.
Wow.
That's right. And so God sent me to the planet to help people parent better, because he wants a holy and godly generation. And that starts with a holy and godly parent.
Come on, guys. Aren't we blessed to be here today? Right. Listen to that. You know, I am so, I feel full, you know? I feel so blessed. Like, find out the reason God sent you to this world, to this planet, and never quit. Wow. And now that's what you're doing right now. And that's why you're blessing us in the way that you're blessing us. This is so, so good. Thank you so much, Barb. Now, I want to ask you about your authenticity, because I know that one of the things that we talk about here a lot is this, again, authenticity and intentionality. I want you to tell people, these parents here, the value and the strength that's in authenticity, because I know we've talked about it, but the reason we have guests like you from all over the world, so that they don't just hear from me, this mad woman, this passionate woman saying, we've got to be authentic, you know, we've got to be authentic, we've got to bear ourselves bare, you know, like plain, right? So talk to us about your authenticity framework, Barb.
Okay. For me, my background is in early childhood, and I read a statistic once in an early childhood paper that really startled me. It said that children only take 20% of what they hear their parents say into their future, and 80% of what their parents do. And so if your children are going to take 80% of what you do into their future, and their children and their children's children and their children's children are going to take those same things, then what you do ought to be what's real to you, what's really you. And I have a framework. If you'll picture a house being built, the foundation of our framework is belief. So what do we believe? What is our belief structure? In other words, what is it that we really believe is true, and what do we frame our lives around? And what is our worldview? And then based on that, how does that frame how we show up in life for ourselves, for our children, and for the other people in our world? How does that show up? And then, so I say this is what I believe and what I value, but can people see that in what I do? Can people see that in my schedule? You know, if I have a schedule and I say family is really important to me, but I'm never at my kids' soccer game, I'm never at their band concert, taking the time, then am I being authentic? Because I say I value family. I believe I value family, but my schedule doesn't reflect that.
Do you know what, Barb? You're talking about that, and I remember attending your coaching program,
Mhm.
and you talked about the beliefs, and I know that's what you're talking about, but I just want to tell what really hit me at that point was most of us say, oh, families, my kids mean everything to me, right? Some of us say, my kids mean everything to me. And like you said, you don't have time for them, right? You're never, like you said, you're never at their soccer games. You're never at the anything. You don't even have time to listen. You know, they are like a nag to you. But in a group of parents, you know, when we meet, oh, my kid means everything to me. So are we being authentic? And that, when you said that, I actually began to recalibrate myself. I mean, you guys know I'm always learning as well. And as much as we are, and I say to you clearly here, as much as I'm an adolescent psychologist, it's not, I don't do everything right all the time. I have a daughter who will say to me, she probably is listening somewhere, and then she'll say to me, she'll pick on something that I said, and then she'll say, for example, how many times has she picked on me and said, oh, Mom, you're the one that tells parents they should not shout at their kids, right? So what are you doing right now? And I'm like, okay. As a leader, I need to exercise humility. I've been caught. and I just say, I put my hands together and say, you're correct, sweetie. We should not, parents should not be screaming and shouting at their children. And I'm sorry.
That is authentic. That is true authenticity. Parents sometimes feel like you need to be the one in control. But let's be honest, none of us are always in control. Sometimes we have to apologize because we blew it. And that's okay, because you know what? We're teaching our children what it truly means to be a human being. We make mistakes, especially with our kids, because you know what? When you're off your game and when you're acting crazy, your kids have been watching you since they were born. They know it. You know, don't think they don't know it. They know it. And so being honest with them, being open with them is empowering for them. It's empowering for you. You know what? Quit hiding. You quit trying to be something you're not. That's inauthenticity. Don't do that to yourself, and don't do it to your kids.
Wow.
And you're wrong, you're wrong. It's okay to admit, hey, you know what? I blew that. I blew that out of the water. Never coming back. That's in little pieces. I'm sorry. It's okay. It's okay. And it gives them permission to do the same thing. Because you're modeling for them what that looks like.
And also, I think it also liberates us all from that feeling of shame and guilt, because sometimes when we pretend that we don't do anything wrong, when we get caught, then we, in an effort to pretend and be everything that we thought we were, we live in shame and guilt. And what I know for sure is when we are, and if you guys know, we talk about the levels of influence. And when we are operating from a position of guilt or shame or anger or you know, those low level vibration, right? We have absolutely no influence. And that, I love what you said, Barb. Quit pretending. Like, just quit it today. Let's quit. Let's liberate ourselves from this putting up appearances and looking all perfection. or perfectionists. We are not, but we are still valuable. We are still loved. We are still children of the Most High God. We are still okay. Because our value is not in dropping down, right? We are still valuable. It's just like a dirty pound or a dirty dollar. Even when it's so crunched and dirty and everything, it's still, you take it to the shop, buys the exact same stuff as the shiny new one. So we need to understand our value and not attach it to all these pretense. And gosh, I love what you said. I just felt a sort of liberation when you said that. When you hear it again, it's so liberating. Now, are there any more thoughts on authenticity for parents? Because I know in your coaching sessions, you talk a lot about authenticity. Actually, is there anything that you'd like to speak to our parents about? Anything more about authenticity before we move on to some tips on self-care and something like that? Yeah.
Okay. So authenticity is a gift that you give to yourself first. Mm-hmm. And then it's a gift that you give to your children. And then it's a gift that you give to the rest of the world.
Wow.
But if you're not giving the gift of authenticity to yourself, it's not possible to give it to anybody else.
Wow. It's a gift. We give to ourselves first, and then to our young people, our children, and then to the rest of the world. And I'm just thinking, and correct me if I'm wrong, something has just come to my mind about, for you to be authentic, you must be prepared to be vulnerable. You must be prepared to, and again, vulnerability in this case is strength.
I think we look at authenticity as being vulnerable, but I'm not sure I consider it being vulnerable. I consider it being real. Mm-hmm. And sometimes being real means that people aren't going to like that about you. But, when you come to the point that being authentic is more important to you than what other people think about you, then you're not as vulnerable. Because being true to yourself is the most important thing, then what anybody else thinks isn't really important.
Wow.
And it makes it actually, I think that being authentic makes you less vulnerable.
Wow. That's a different take.
Yeah, because vulnerability means that you're going to, it's easy to be hurt, or it's easy to be, treated in a wrong way.
To be taken advantage of.
Right. If you are comfortable in your own skin, with who you are, with what you believe, and you know that is, and you know what that is, that's strength.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's strength. So being authentic, and it puts you actually in a position of strength, because you're not giving people an opportunity to there is nothing for them to pick on you on.
There's nothing, they don't have a right to define you.
Yeah, absolutely. They have no right to define you. Oh, this is so beautiful.
I don't need you to define me, because I have defined myself. I have gotten alone with the Lord, and I know what I believe. I know why I believe it. I know, I have set a framework. I know what my worldview is, and I have decided that this is who I am, and while I appreciate that this you might not like that. And, you know, I can also say, I appreciate that you don't like it, but this is who I am and I'm sorry. You know, I mean, there comes a point when there comes a point when humility really is, this is who I am, take it or leave it.
Mm.
You know, it's not in an arrogant form. It's just in a, this is who I am.
This is who I am. So, Barb, I know, I'm going to put you on the spot here because I want to ask you, for so many people, for so many parents, this is not something anyone taught us, right?
Exactly.
And most of us have been, what can I say? We've got a lot of hurt from our past, maybe in our own childhood. So how can we spring to that point where you are clean, you are clear, you are courageous to step up and say, this is me, just as I am? I have a feeling how we can do it, because I know that there is a lot of onion peels that I have had to peel from myself to come to a position where I am a sort of a tiger. And you don't have to say to me, you know, when we are in a group of people, you don't have to say to me, run so I can see you're a tiger. And I can say, I don't have to run to show you anything. I'm a tiger, right? So how can we get to that point?
So I think it starts with, and this is why I have the belief structure, because I think it's important. You have to know what you believe. And so you have to know there's three parts of belief. What do I value and hold as true?
Mm.
What tenets or things are important to me?
Mm.
How do I view the world? So once you have those three things, then the next thing is, what do I value? And value is, how do I expect myself to show up in the world for myself? And how do I expect to show up in the world for other people? Once I have my beliefs, once I have my values, then everything else is based on that. So I know what my belief and my values are. So my belief and my values frame how I think, frame how I feel, frame what I say, frame what I do. So the foundation of being able to do that is to know what you believe and value, and to be okay with what you believe and value.
Wow. Do you know what? Over here at Raising Remarkable Teenagers, we have a program we call the 5 Habits of Highly Effective Teenagers. And one of the habits is robust. I mean, the 5 habits are respectful, responsible, resilient, robust, and radiant. And when you talked about values, that's where robust for us comes in, because there is that structure that's within you. That's your robustness is what, when you step out, you are immovable. When every other place is sinking, you're not sinking because you are standing on solid rock, right? And I love what you talked about, those values. When those values are driving you, you're not easily shaken. You're not easily lured into things that are not meaningful to you. So I like, good Lord, I don't, this is so good, Barb. I think we need to have another session.
Anytime, Angie.
Oh my goodness. So I want to ask you, Barb, so before you give us 3 tips that parents can use today to change their relationship with their young people and to improve their connection, where can people find you, and in what platforms can people find you? So, because I know loads of people will be wanting to ask follow-up questions about our discussion.
Okay, so you can find me on Facebook. I have a page called Parents, Teachers, and Advocates. So that's where you can find me there. I also have a website, and my website is PT, the word and, the letter A, the number 1.org. PTNA1.org. That's where you'll find all of my parent information. If you're interested in parent coaching, then you can contact me at barbara@harveyparent.com, and make sure that you put in your subject line something about coaching.
Oh, brilliant. So we're going to put all those links down here. You guys, if you're watching this, obviously click on any of the links. If you're listening to this on a podcast or just an audio, the site is ptna1.org, or your email, it's
harveyparent.com.
So barb@harveyparent.com. So that's where you can
Actually, Barbara, not Barb. I put my full name on there. So it's Barbara@harveyparent.com.
Okay, so Barbara, but you guys, I know you will have just one moment to click on the links down here, right? So make sure you do. And so before we let you go, over here, we like to make sure that parents have tangible tips that they can use today, because we talk about taking action on the information so that they can get the transformation. So what 3 things would you advise a parent tonight to go and do that you know for sure is going to change the dimension of their relationship with their teenagers?
Make sure that tonight, at some point, you ask your child a question and really listen. So that's the first thing. And just, I encourage you, don't look to listen to give advice. Listen so that your child just really feels heard. And when they're done talking, ask them, tell them what you heard them say, and ask them if that's what they really said. And if not, ask them to explain it again. So give them a chance to tell you what they want to tell you, especially if they've been trying to talk to you recently and you haven't really been willing to listen. So number 1, take the time to listen to your child. So that's the first tip. Second tip, take a little bit to think about what you believe and value, and examine and see if those things are things that you make time for. And if they're not, think about how to make time for them. And the third one is be authentic. Stop trying to please other people. Stop living your life out of what you think other people think of you. And make a choice right now, today, to live according to what you believe and value, and encourage your children to do the same.
Wow. So you've told us today, I know which one I'm going to practice, guys. I know the one that I've been falling on lately, right? Truly ask a question and then listen. Not listening to give advice, but just listening so that your child, your teenager especially, feels hard. And then think about your beliefs, your values. What are your values? Maybe write down 3, 4, 5 values, right? And or even if you can't come up with beliefs, or because sometimes we don't know our beliefs, right? Ask yourself, for example, behavior, because at the back of beliefs, I mean, at the front of beliefs is we see behavior, but at the back is beliefs. So ask yourself, why am I snappy, right? Why am I like this? And then listen and really reflect. And then, Barb, you said, be authentic. You guys, we can do this. We can do this. Any final thoughts, Barb?
First of all, thank you for inviting me to be on your show. I have enjoyed this conversation very much. Second of all, I just want to encourage your crew, your folks at that every one of you have in you what you need to be the parent of the child you have, because the Creator created you with everything you need. He gave you this child because you have everything that child needs.
Wow.
So walk in that, own that. You have in you everything your child needs because God put it there for your child. It's there. And just be confident in that. And know that you can raise remarkable teens because God has given you everything you need to do that. Trust that.
Wow. Wow. You guys, trust that this responsibility that we were given because there was a provision. We were given this responsibility because the one that gave us this project, this provision, this responsibility knew that there was provision for us, and it's within us, and we can do it, of course, with the right people. We always say it takes a village to raise a kid, and that's why you that's listening, you that's watching, Barb here, Angie here, everyone else here, we are the village that it takes to raise these lovely, lovely kids. And we can do this. We can raise mentally healthy teenagers, highly effective teenagers without losing our own minds. Yeah?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, guys, for showing up on today's Tuesday Tips for Parents of Teens here at Raising Remarkable Teenagers. And we look forward to seeing you in our next session. And for now, I really, really encourage you to go and take action on that information that you've received today so that you can experience the transformation. From all of us here at Raising Remarkable Teenagers and Barb, our guest today, thank you so much, and we will see you in the next session. Bye-bye now.
Bye, guys.